Aloha, everybody, and welcome to this episode of Faith and Family First. I'm your host, Eva Andrade. I'm here with my co-host, Marcus Oshiro, and the gavel is coming down on the second half of the 33rd legislative session in the state of Hawaii. So Marcus and I are going to tell you what's happening, how a bill moves through the process, and how you can plug in. So let's chat about that. Marcus.
Eva.
Aren't you so glad that you are not in the Capitol building right now?
Well, yeah, I am. You know, they're going to be facing some really tough issues, and I wish them the best.
Actually, right now is a good time for you to like, share, subscribe, hit that notification bell so you know every time we upload a new video, because as we move through this legislative session, Marcus and I are going to be dealing not only with what's happening at the legislature, but we're going to be talking about some of the things that happen behind the scenes, some of those things that are happening under the hood that you may not know about. So we want to give you all the talking points you need. We want to walk you through the process. So sign up to get the Hawaii Family Forum alerts, because right now, if you do so, you can send an email to your legislator to welcome them into the second half of the 33rd legislative session.
33rd legislative session, yes.
Yes. It seems so small, yeah? Only 33, but that's because we have a biennial legislature.
Right, and we're a young state, 1959, so it's been about 67 years since statehood, so we're a very young state.
What was your first legislative session? Do you remember the number?
1995, I'm not sure.
All right, you night hawks, for you people like doing research, find out what Marcus's first legislative session was and type it in the comments. Okay, so let's talk about what's happening right now. So legislative session opens on Wednesday, January 21st.
That's correct.
So by the time people are watching this video, the legislative session will have opened on Wednesday. They're watching this either on a Friday or a Saturday, or even after that. So let's look at what happens during the legislative process in this early. The gavel comes in, they have their parties, they eat, and then at 1:30 on opening day,
they go back to work. They go back to the hearings. Right now, the Ways and Means, the Senate Ways and Means Committee and the House Finance Committee, they've been meeting for the last two and a half weeks, bringing in different departments, directors, deputies, talking about their wish list for the 2026 legislative session, coming back and articulating where they need more money, where they need more personnel, and what priorities they have for this year, expressing the governor's requests from the legislature for his next year or so.
Yes, so that's important. We want you to realize that just because the legislative session just opened, it doesn't mean conversations have not been taking place behind the scenes. In fact, lobbying has been taking place over the interim.
It is a year-round activity. And so I tell people, although the session is out, basically after May for about 8 months, that doesn't mean there's no activity. In fact, that's where there is a lot of activity going on. And that's where community members, activists, interested parties need to engage during that period of time.
Which is why we're asking you right now, go to hawaiifamilyforum.org and make sure you sign up to get the alerts, because right now it's the time to make that initial contact with your legislator in a friendly way. So the reason we do this, think about it, it makes perfect sense, right? You don't invite people to come to your house to eat dinner if every time they pass your yard, they throw rocks in your yard, right? The people you want to come and have dinner with you are the people that you built relationship with, right? Yeah. So what we're trying to do is we want to take you out of the grind of the legislative session just long enough to start to build relationship with your legislators. I will tell you personally that I have decent relationships with legislators that do not agree with me on any of the issues that we fight for. And the reason that I sit down and I break bread with them and I'm nice to them is because we can still have conversations if we're open and honest and sharing that spirit of aloha.
That's correct. Yeah. So right now, based upon where we are right now, this is the proceedings where new legislators were sworn in. There's a couple of them, I believe, replacing a Waipahu seat. They're going to coming in there, and then they're appointed by the governor. They'll get confirmed, and then you have the rules that are going to be comporting with the new configuration of the committee's committee makeup, and then a lot of song and dance to celebrate the opening. It's really a welcoming of the people to their legislature to participate. And that's the beautiful thing about Hawaii's legislature.
Yeah,
It's
it
very,
is a
very
gorgeous.
unique.
It's a gorgeous opening.
It's very, very
Yeah.
unique. It's like a
Yeah.
gathering of friends and
Yeah.
family coming in.
You get all the lei you could possibly put on your head.
Oh yeah, more than graduation time,
Yeah.
high school.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then and it's really nice that you look on the Senate
Yeah.
side and the House side, you see them with their family members.
Yeah.
So it's a real nice time. They have music, they have
Yeah.
prayer.
Yeah.
Yes, they have prayer.
There's prayer.
Yeah.
There's pulekako.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
absolutely beautiful. I have to admit that most of the time I just watch the session, that portion, and then I will go down in person afterward just to go show face. And again, no lobbying. I don't do any lobbying on opening day. All I do is walk in, hug,
Yeah.
tell them
Yeah.
that I'm around. If they want my business card, I give it to them. Sometimes I just give it to them just so that they have my contact information.
Yeah, it's always good to touch bases and wish them well. This is going to be a tough session. All sessions are tough, interesting. The dynamics are not preset, so it's a good time.
60 days, right?
Yeah, it's 60, not 60 calendar days, but 60 legislative
working days. Yeah.
Days when they're actually voting on measures. So
No
the 60s
weekends are counted.
Weekends are not
is
counted.
true.
Holidays are not counted, and there are certain recesses that are built into it. Recesses basically mean time for the legislators to go back home, neighbor island folks especially, to touch base with their constituencies.
That means you're on the Audubon. That means the legislative session goes super, 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 super fast. It goes.
It does.
And that's why it's really important that you want to stay plugged into an organization like Hawaii Family Forum, because we will tell you what the legislative deadlines are. Because, for instance, if a bill that's introduced has 3 readings that it needs, that means it has to pop very, very quickly.
Yes.
To make
Yeah.
it through. Now, sometimes they'll put the two committees together and all that stuff, but I've seen bills that have 4 or 5 committee hearings assignments.
Yeah, that means sudden death or graveyard for some of those.
But I have seen in the as long as
Yeah,
I've done this,
yeah.
I have seen miracles happen with bills.
Well, there's
that
a
have that
Lazarus
many.
effect. Yeah. But yeah.
So, Marcus, as an ex-legislator, what would you say the opening day? What kind of tone, and does that set a tone for the legislative session?
I think it's a tone that the House and Senate leaders want to impress upon the public, also their members. And so I think, for example, the House Speaker, her address, and then the 2 respective caucus leaders for the Republicans and for the Democrats. So that'll be Sean Quinlan and Lauren Matsumoto for the Republicans. They each will have an opportunity to stand, be recognized, and to articulate and explain what they believe the priorities should be of the legislature.
And there was a sneak peek of that in the paper already, right? You had sent me the one that the Democrats did, and I
Yeah.
believe that the Republicans have also released their priorities.
Yeah, so I went to the website today just to be, up to date, and I found that the House Majority Leader, Sean Quinlan, who's also the representative of the North Shore, did articulate these priorities as building more housing for local residents. He also talked about supporting Native Hawaiians, Department of Hawaiian Homelands, preserving the social safety net, expanding workforce development and retention programs, enhancing tax revenues, which is going to be an interesting discussion, and diversifying and strengthening Hawaii's economy. So that's the priorities of the House Democrats.
Now, I was surprised that the Republican Party, in their priorities, they actually added housing. That's an issue now they're looking at. I know that Representative Garner Shimizu has introduced a bill to actually do a safe spaces. I did take a look at the first draft of the bill. It's probably going to change because he's working with the governor's office on homelessness.
Right.
And I know that he's reaching out to the agencies that work with housing. So I was really glad to see that, because I love when there's some bipartisan issues.
Yeah, I think most of these issues regarding the bread and butter, the pocketbook issues are nonpartisan or bipartisan. Both the D's and the R's can get agreement. It's maybe the methodology, the pace, or the rate on how they're going to make these changes. But for the most part, they're reflective of the community and what the community sees as being the priorities. So I wish them luck on addressing all of these big items.
That's why if you sign up to receive Hawaii Family Forum's alerts, you can contact your legislators right now and tell them what your priorities are, because I do think it's important that what's important to you is relayed to your legislators, right?
Amen.
So there are 51 members in the House, and there's 25 in the Senate. And that's important because this is an election year, right? So in the House, they only have a 2-year term, which means all 51 members will be up during this next election. And in the Senate, the 25, they have a 4-year term, and it's staggered. So half of them ish, right? Will be
so
up.
I just pulled this up, and I kind of did some research on it. So there's 25 senators. Not all 25 are up. But for 2026, the following are up for re-election approval by their voters. So Stanley Chang, Donovan De La Cruz, Kurt Favela, Carol Fukunaga, Mike Gabbard, Troy Hashimoto, Donna Kim, Ron Kochi, Senate President, Rochelle Lamasao, Chris Lee, Carl Rhodes, although Carl has said that he will not be running for re-election, Chinatown, downtown. And then you have Senator San Buenaventura and Senator Wakai. So just about half of the senators.
And Senator Keohokolole is going to be running for Congress. So even though he's not up, right, he's still going to be in the election.
And the reason is he can run for a different
he can.
seat,
So he holds on. He can hold on to his Senate seat unless he gets elected.
He gets elected to Congress.
Obviously.
He beats incumbent Ed Case.
Right.
Then he'll have to make a choice, probably to resign his state Senate seat and take the congressional seat.
That's going to be interesting. Well, actually, the whole congressional race is going to be interesting. So on the Senate side and on the House side, there is leadership. Right. So people have to understand, and they've heard it before, right? You have your Senate president, and then you have the Speaker of the House. And it's already set, right?
It's already set.
So the Speaker of the House.
Nadine Nakamura, she's been around for about 10 years. She represents a district on Kauai. On Kauai, there's one state senator, Senator Kochi, and there are 3 representatives there. So she represents one of the areas. She's been around for, again, 10 years. This is her 2nd year as the Speaker of the House. Woman Speaker of the House.
And it's important because what happens is these leaders, they designate the committees, the committee chairs, and who's going to be on the committees. Now, the Senate has been completed. So if you go to the Capitol website, you can see who has been appointed to the Senate committees. I have not seen the House yet. The House normally takes a little longer to get their committees
they
out.
still might be settling some movement, because there was that change when Senator Aquino resigned to return to the private sector, and then there was a vacancy there. So the House of Representatives member decided to go into that seat, and then there became a vacancy in the House seat to be filled by the Democratic caucus. And so there's some changes moving on there. And of course, last year we had the change of the House Finance Committee.
Right.
Maui Representative Kyle Yamashita being moved from the chair of the House Finance Committee, and you have Chris Todd from Hilo coming in as a new chair of the House Finance Committee. He's been around also about 10 years, but this is his first time at the helm of the all-powerful, influential House Finance Committee.
Which Marcus knows from personal experience. And I will tell you that why it's important that you know this is your legislator could potentially be a committee chair, a vice chair, or on an important committee.
That's right.
For instance, when I go to Congress, and I visit our congressional offices every December. When I'm in their offices, I know that as I'm talking to Representative Ed Case, or if I'm talking to Senator Brian Schatz, they're on the appropriations committees. So I know that as I'm talking to them, that it's important that however I feel about the issues, whether we agree or not, that it's important that they know because they can take at least my thoughts into the committee meetings. So it's good to have that relationship.
Well, it's wonderful that you do that because I think that's so important. We have such a small, compact congressional delegation. You know, every state has 2 U.S. senators, so it's really unique. But we also have 2, you know, equally vocal and active congressional members with Joe Takuda and Ed Case.
And it's interesting because Senator Schatz and Representative Case, they have met me, like I sit personally in their office and have these meetings with them. With Representative Jill Takuda and with Senator Mazie Hirono, it's always their office staff. And their office staff, I'm telling you, are some of the best, kindest people. And Marcus, as I'm sitting across the table from them, their chief of staff or, you know, their representatives, because they have people that are experts in different areas, right? They really do listen. And they know you're a constituent and they treat you well, even if they're sitting across. Like, abortion is a good issue. We talk about abortion. I know how they are on these issues, but it hasn't stopped me from having a conversation with them, and because I'm not going in there and threatening them under penalty of death and all of that kind of stuff. So it's really important. Again, we're going to keep saying it. Relationship building is so important. Okay, so how a bill becomes law. Let's get into that. So bills before session, right? They're already being formulated, right? The ideas come up, and an idea can come from anywhere. Somebody could say, "I do not like ashtrays, and I don't like how they're treated. So I'm going to go in and I'm going to see my legislator, and I'm going to say we need a bill saying there are no ashtrays in public places or whatever." Your legislature, whether they agree with your idea or not, they have to present it. So they'll do their research, right?
Yes.
And sometimes it's a by request bill, which means that they're doing it by request.
Yes.
And sometimes they'll buy into it and go, you know what, I agree with you. And they might get behind it, and they might even support it.
They might, yeah. And I think people need to understand that the only people who can propose legislation are the 76 trombones.
Okay.
The 25 senators, the 51 House members, there's no one else. The governor can't do it.
Yeah, that's right.
The lieutenant governor can't do it. The chief justice can't do it. The attorney general can't do it. Only the 76 trombones.
So if you have pissed off your legislator, and we're going to go back to this relationship thing, if you have made them mad and you treated them horribly and you've not had open conversations, they still have to, if you're a constituent, they still have to listen to you. But I'll tell you, there is a difference between by request and them getting behind an idea.
Yeah, when you see the descriptive B/R, by request, that means the legislator, whoever she might be, is merely complying with the process and the constitutional limitations on who can propose legislation. They may not necessarily endorse the idea or even like the idea, but they're doing their duty by their constituents to put it into the hopper for consideration.
Yep, yes, I know.
So BR means BR.
I saw a bill several years ago that somebody had thought was important, and I can see, you know, these are one of those bills that like I would never weigh in on, but it was interesting. And this was a bill that would allow a homeowner to shoot an animal, or, well, maybe not shoot, but however, if the animal came into your yard and destroyed property or bit you.
I bet you that was someone from Manoa, kind of wild boar coming down from the valley, right?
Well, exactly. And so, I mean, like the first thing I did, and I was working.
With a guy down in Milan and Malka, because a pig comes into the yard, digs up their daffodils, right? And turiums.
It was funny. I remember. I won't tell people who I was working for at the time, but the person I was working for at the time, I went in and I said, "Are you going to weigh in on this bill?" And that person said, "Why would I weigh on this bill?" And I said, "If you don't weigh on this bill and Fluffy dies, it's your fault." So we called it the Fluffy bill. Oh my gosh. But anyway, the point is that whatever is important to you is something you can go in. So bills are bills are all bills have to go through 3 readings. Right?
Yes.
They have their first reading, which is pro forma. That is.
And a reading, people need to know, a reading means a vote. So 3 public vote every single bill. So the first one is by title and by number.
And people have to realize on that first vote, if a legislator votes yes, it doesn't mean they support the bill, right?
Yeah,
they're moving it into
I would say that's the free pass is pro forma.
Yeah.
It's pro forma, really.
Yeah.
There's no real significance of that vote because they're just trying to get the bill processed.
And they can vote no if they choose,
Yeah,
right?
but
most legislators
people,
vote yes on first reading.
Yeah, so I don't really hold them accountable for the initial vote, passing first reading, being referred to such and such committee for public hearing.
Second reading is different. Second reading and third reading is super critical.
Second reading is the real mustard because that means that the bill has gone to a public hearing, received comments, been worked upon, has been cross-examined,
and
has
it's
been
alive.
studied, and it's alive, and it comes to the body on second reading.
Yeah.
That is a real vote. There is real substance to that because the legislator, he or she, has the opportunity to study it, examine the testimony, ask questions. Now your vote counts.
Yeah. And so at that point, that's really where your connection with your legislator is going to, because everybody has to vote on second reading.
Well, unless you're excused.
Right.
But yeah, you're on the clock.
Right. So even if your representative or senator was not in the hearings, second reading is their opportunity to weigh in.
Yeah, because they will get noticed by looking at the committee report, talking to their colleagues. And given the technology we have today, they can actually go to the exact hearing, find the exact bill, and listen to the exact testimony, word by word, verbatim, through the magic of technology at the www.hawaii.capitol.hawaii.gov.
You know, I will say that another reason to maintain that relationship with your legislator, Marcus, is because if the bill's moving, as they get their hearing, if the committee chair only allows 1 minute or 2 minutes for testimony, then your legislator who's not on the committee may not have a good understanding of your opposition or support of the bill, right? Because they can go back and read all of the testimony, but people have to understand that legislators have 1,000+ bills that are introduced.
She is really nice, but maybe because I was an attorney, I went to law school, and I had deadlines to meet when I had to submit briefs. Certain hard, fast deadlines. You got to get the job done. I mean, you got to work Friday, Saturday, Sunday. It's the job. But the legislative session is so compressed. You got to expect to make the sacrifice to study those darn bills and read them and look at the testimony. But you're not doing it alone. You have paid staff. People are getting paid dinero, real money, to help you.
Check the kala.
So I tell people, you know what? You guys got staff, you got technology, you got ChatGPT, you got all this kind of AI stuff.
Yeah, ChatGPT can give you a summary now.
You should know what's in the bill. There's no excuse.
They could take the legislature now could take all of the testimony, Marcus, and say, give me 5 reasons people support and 5 reasons they oppose.
You're so nice, Eva. But you know what? I've been there. I've served there. With the technology today, you can do the work. And you should. There's no excuse.
So while I give them the grace, saying that there are lots and lots of bills, at the same time, you're right, Marcus. We've elected them to do a job, and we should hold them accountable. Yeah. But let me tell you, if you're going to go in their office and yell at them and say, you're not reading your bills and you're not doing this, well, you know what? I don't believe that's going to serve anybody. And I know people disagree with me. I've had people say to me exactly what you just said. Eva, you are too nice. We need to go in there. We need to hold them accountable. I agree, but it's how you hold. You know how you hold a legislator accountable? When elections roll around, that is the time you give them their report card. They either pass or fail, and if they fail, they don't get your vote.
That's right. That's
right. Okay, so so you have 3 readings. If a bill passes all 3 readings, then what happens is whatever chamber it originated in, whether it's the House or the Senate, it's going to cross over and start the process again in the opposite chamber. So if it started as a House bill, the number of the bill does not change. So say it's House Bill 100. House Bill 100 will move and pass 3 readings. It'll go over to the Senate as House Bill 100. The Senate may make changes. It still needs 3 readings now in the Senate. if there's any changes in the Senate, that's where you'll get the SD, the Senate Draft 1 or Senate Draft 2 or whatever. And then it has to move through 3 readings again. Same process. Your senators now are in the same position that you were in the House. Your senator may be on the committee. That's where you got to build relationship. Should the bill make it through that second chamber, then if there's changes on it, what happens is the easy way is the originating chamber could just agree to the changes.
To the changes, yes.
They could do that. That's the easiest, simple way. That's kind of rare. I mean, it does happen.
It does happen.
But most of the time, the originating chamber will not agree to the changes.
Initially will not agree.
Right. And then what happens is the bill then will need to go into conference committee, which will consist of members from both chambers to discuss the bill and try to get it to a format that they agree.
Right, and that conference committee is a term of art because those are the committee members that are appointed by the House Speaker, Senate President, who actually heard a version of the bill. They'll meet to settle the differences, and that's the purpose of the conference committee, to settle the differences between the 2 drafts, not to create a new bill, but settle the differences. And that's where some litigation or brouhaha occurs when you kind of decide what's the reconciliation. If the bill gets agreement from the non-originating chamber, it can go straight to the governor.
Exactly.
So let's say the House bill passes out, goes to the Senate makes no changes, they approve it, it goes straight to the governor's office.
Again, why? Yeah. And this happens fast. I tell people all the time that I get paid to do this. I get paid to watch the things that are happening at the Capitol and letting people in the community know. So every week I'm sending out updates where we're at, what's moving, what's not moving.
So I can give you an example, like maybe last session. There might be a similar bill this session. There might be a bill dealing with the cost of operation of the legislature in 2026. If the House and Senate agree upon the amount of money for the legislature, it'll go from the House to the Senate or Senate to the House, and they'll both agree on it because they have agreed before, and it'll go straight to the governor.
Yep. And the governor is pretty good for the most part about telling people where he stands on the issues. Sometimes he's kind of quiet because he's doing his own internal research. But if a bill moves that quickly, a lot of times you know whether the governor's going to sign.
It's really non-consequential. It's eternal regarding the funding of the legislature. So that's like inside baseball, right?
Yep. So here's a couple of things to keep in mind. The second year of the legislature, which is where we're in today, bills that were alive last session are still alive for this session. So technically, a bill that made it all the way up to the end and ended in conference committee could start in conference committee right away.
We started in an odd year in 2025, now enter into even year 2026. Those bills are still alive.
Right.
And well.
So you could have a situation where you have a bill that was alive last session that starts to move and they introduce a new one, right, as a backup. Or, I mean, it's everything is crazy at the beginning of session. Only 90% of bills do not pass.
That's about 10% do pass.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
like 3,000 bills, you can make 300 pass. So about 10%.
Yeah. So during a 2-year process, that's what happens, right? You get a lot of bills that end up just
a lot of duplication. Right?
Yes. Yeah. So make sure you go to the Hawaii Family Forum website because everything that Mark has talked about, it happens very quickly in the legislative session. So you want to stay up on all these things. You want to know how to plug in, when to plug in, why to plug in, what's your talking points. We're going to provide all of that for you. So make sure you like, share, subscribe, hit that notification bell so you know every time we upload a new video. And stay tuned because next week, Marcus and I are going to get down to the nitty-gritty and talk a little bit more about this process and some inside baseball. So we'll see all of you next week. Mahalo, everybody.